Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Gamer Cosmic Show. Today we're going to be doing a movie review on Spider-Man Homecoming. Just to be warned, this is all spoiler discussion talk. So you have a chance to turn away right now if you don't want to know anything about the movie. But it's going to be hard for you not to know anything about this film because there's so many trailers out. By Furious trailer has few. I think Movie Clips 4K has quite a few trailers out on the Spider-Man Homecoming movie. So you've probably seen a sizable good amount of what basically the Spider-Man movie might be about. And to be honest with you, those trailers you've seen are almost like the first 15 minutes of the Spider-Man film. So there was a lot that they didn't put out there. So there was some surprises when you do get to see the movie. The premises and plot is Vulture, who's played by Michael Keaton, aka Adrian Toomes, what's his real name as the character. He kind of owns like a salvage towing company, and he's contracted by the city of New York to help haul out all the alien weaponry and junk that was left behind from the Avengers and Chitauri battle in New York. Damage Control comes in and basically says, hey, we're taking over. We have rights now over this, and your services are no longer needed. Adrian Toomes, who was played by Michael Keaton, feels a little jaded. He invested all this equipment. He bought new trucks. He got employees who are depending on him. And he basically is now like, what the fuck, man? I sunk all this money into this. And Damage Control, who's basically being led by Iron Man, is basically almost firing him and kicking him out. And so you can see why he became a little jaded. It still doesn't explain the 8 years in between Avengers and Homecoming, why he became as menacing as he was. So that's to me is a big, big, big major gripe and a big hole in the movie itself. Spider-Man and Tony Stark's, their relationship is more like a mentor. Peter Parker definitely wants to impress Tony Stark's. He wants to be Avenger so bad he's willing to do anything. He's willing to even disregard the advice that Tony Stark's is giving him. Tony Stark is vague and cryptic sometimes when he speaks to him about what he actually wants him to do. So Peter himself has to find his own path. And at the same time, he's trying to impress Tony Stark's, but at the same time, he's trying to stay true to himself. So when there's a threat out there, he feels like, you know what, I have to act. I've let Iron Man and Mr. Happy know, and it feels like I don't think they're moving fast enough. But behind the scenes, Tony Stark was really keeping an eye out on him and was helping him out. So my likes in this movie is Tom Holland. He plays an excellent Peter Parker. Arguably, he might even be better than Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. But by far, he's better than Andrew Garfield's play on the character of Peter Parker. Hands down, I won't even debate that. Tom Holland exceeded where Andrew Garfield could not. And I believe it's because of Andrew Garfield's age and his look. I believe Amazing Spider-Man probably should have started off with him as a senior in high school, and Amazing Spider-Man 2, maybe him in college, just because we looked at him like, he doesn't look like a 16 or a 17-year-old to me. It's just not believable. So no, Michael Keaton, the Vulture, probably the best Marvel villain today. Today, yes, I'll put him right up there with Red Skull, and some will arguably say he's up there with Loki. But he's definitely the top three best Marvel villains so far. But he's still a former shadow of himself from the comic book source material. And since I am a comic book purist, I wish they delved deeper into the genius of Adrian Toomes. I mean, the guy's a very smart electrical engineer. I feel they downplayed that, and I feel like they left it to a side character to create all the weapons that they made out of the alien junk that they acquired. I personally assumed that Adrian Toomes would be the one who does the designs and maybe have some people. He maybe subcontract out some help to help him build it, but ultimately it would be his design, and you don't get to see that from him. You see that he's a good father, and you see that he's a great villain, but you don't see the genius aspect of him. And like I said, you don't get to see why he is the Vulture and why he wants to be the Vulture. Like, what's the reasons behind it? I understand he says the world is changing, we're going to change with it, but what made you turn from a great father that was living upper middle class into now a super criminal villain? And they didn't explain that. And that's one of the major, major holes in Spider-Man Homecoming. And another thing that I really, really liked was Flash Thompson. I was very surprised. Once again, I'm a comic book purist. I was like, he doesn't look like the Flash from the comic books, but they did a good enough job with this guy being an asshole to Peter that you're like, okay, that's Flash. And one of my favorite things that he got everybody saying was calling Peter Parker Penis Parker. I did laugh at that. That was one of the very few chuckles I had during this movie. And this is another one that I really, really liked in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie was when Peter Parker was trapped underneath the rubble. As a father, you feel for this because he's a 14-year-old kid trapped underneath tons of rubble. He's crying out for help. He's just a little boy, and you're just like, wow, man, and it touches you. It touches you. And then there's a part where he looks into the puddle. He sees half of his face is the Spider-Man mask, the other half is his regular self, and he just gathers up all this willpower, this determination. I'm Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man. And he gets himself out of that rubble. Like, that was perfect, and I wish that this movie followed that vibe a lot more through the whole movie. That was the only part that gave me that tingle. It was the only part that made me feel like, man, I want to be Spider-Man. Like, you cheered for me, like, yeah! Like, that was the only part I felt, really. Was there a lot of comedic moments? There was between Tony and Peter Parker. They were okay. I think they were vastly over-exaggerated of how funny those parts were, but they were okay. They were entertaining. Now my dislikes is no iconic web swinging. If you watch Amazing Spider-Man, you know that they set the bar high when it comes to web swinging, and this one here does not deliver. It's underwhelming. I'm surprised by how little web swinging there is. Maybe it just could be the part of New York that he's in, because he's in Queens, and the buildings are not as tall as there's per se in Manhattan. You know, there's skyscrapers down there, Empire State Building and the other skyscrapers. But it just seems like the web swinging was missing something, and it's missing what Amazing Spider-Man did. And I was assuming that since Marvel Studios was getting back their baby, that they would even up and up even more over Sony's Amazing Spider-Man, but I felt like they did it. They cut corners. They cut a lot of. You could tell they got cheap. They were thinking about their budget, and I realized that Sony itself throws more money at Spider-Man than Marvel Studios do at Spider-Man. I was assuming this Spider-Man movie was going to be on the same budget as the Avengers. I was wrong. I was off. I can tell that the budget for Spider-Man Homecoming was around the same ballpark figure as Captain America, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man. It didn't get the Avengers budget that I thought it was going to have. Sony is willing to throw 150 and 180 million at Spider-Man, but Marvel Studios seemed like they weren't. And they try to concentrate a lot on the character itself to carry the movie. Oh yeah, there was no iconic Spider-Man poses. You know, the way he's perched, the way he hangs. You know, there was very few, but enough they were forgettable. The way he hung from the web was a little cool with his feet, but they were missing a lot of the iconic movements of Spider-Man, and I really felt that was missing out of this movie, and that's what I was looking for, especially as a comic book purist. Once again, I look for things that are translated from the comic book pages onto the big screen, and did they do a good enough job with it? And with this movie, I believe that they did it. It was vastly underwhelming when it came to the web swinging and the Spider-Man iconic web poses. So with that said, I also thought this movie needed more CGI. I understand there's people out there who hate CGI, but to me, when Spider-Man is in a spider suit and he's running or moving, I think they just have to CGI him. When he was just on foot running, he seemed like he wasn't that fast. Like he wasn't enhanced. He wasn't a superhuman. I felt like I could beat him in a race. Now, if you recall Captain America Civil War, that chase scene with Black Panther and Steve running after Bucky, you can tell they were hauling ass. Maybe it's because the cars were whizzing by, so you got to gauge how fast these guys were kind of moving. But to me, Spider-Man wasn't even moving that fast. I felt like when they had him running, I was just like, he seems slow. He should be moving a lot faster. And that's something that I think Sony got right with Amazing Spider-Man. His physical attributes are the same as the comic book. I felt this one here in Homecoming, they downplayed Spider-Man's physical attributes. And I didn't like that there was no spider sense. There was no spider sense tingling to warn him out of danger. If there is going to be a spider sense later on, I believe it's going to be because of the suit. maybe warns him of incoming threats. And that's neglecting everything that we love about Spider-Man's power set. That once again Marvel is just wiping the slate with. And oh man, but what else? I didn't like that Tony made the suit. I believe they still underplay the genius of Peter Parker, even though during the movie you got to see him play around in class with trying to make a little web fluid, and you see him answer some questions from the teacher to show that he is very smart. So that's why I wish they capitalized a little bit more on that. Let Peter figure out his own way. Let him continue to make his own web shooters and different combinations. Tony Stark doesn't need to do it. Maybe if it was the Avengers movie and he needed Spider-Man to up his game a little bit, like I think this suit will help you during this battle that's about to come. Understandable. But while he's the neighborhood-friendly Spider-Man, I thought that suit was a little too much, and I thought that it took away from Spider-Man's own power set. And this is another gripe that I have with this movie and a lot of the Marvel movies that they do is the unguarded, highly classified facilities. How it seems like it's so easy for people to get in and out. Damage Control in this movie took control of housing all the alien weaponry. But it seemed like when Spider-Man got into that warehouse, nobody was in there walking around. There was no guards. There was no video security cameras anywhere. So basically he was in there for a while and nobody noticed he was in there. It was like as soon as he got in there, everybody clocked out and went home. That's just something that I just noticed on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how easy it is for people to infiltrate a S.H.I.E.L.D. Helicarrier or their headquarters. It would be harder for me. It would be so hard for me to walk in the back of an Applebee's kitchen and try to make it out the back door before somebody says, "Hey, what are you doing? You don't belong here." And that's just an Applebee's restaurant. So I'm assuming when it comes to a S.H.I.E.L.D. facility or a damage control facility, there'd be more heightened awareness of the product that we're keeping here, that it's vastly dangerous and we need to keep an eye on it 24/7, not 2 hours out of the day, and just hope that, the good hearts of men, no one's going to try to break into this. It just made it seem like the story was a little too easy when they do cheesy shit like that. And I understand that it's geared towards kids to keep little 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds entertained and make it easy for them. But for somebody like me, I feel like it was a little bit of lazy writing. But those are my only real big complaints of the movie. And my score of it is I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Do I think it's the best Spider-Man movie of all time? No, not even close. My personal opinion and my list of the best Spider-Man movies goes just like this, in this order. Amazing Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, and then I'll say Spider-Man Homecoming. And then after that, I'll say Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Spider-Man 3. And exactly in that order. And something else I want to talk about is the end credit scenes. I think Marvel's been getting very lazy with the end credit scenes. They don't hold as much impact anymore. To me now, they're almost like comedic relief. The Captain America one at the very end just wasn't needed. I didn't laugh. Actually, when I looked at him, I seen his chin gained a little weight. I noticed that he's vastly out of shape right now. Like I can tell that there's no projects really for Captain America until like maybe the Avengers movie comes out. So maybe he doesn't have to stay in shape as much. But I noticed the chiseled chin wasn't there. Like this is something they got him on the off season. Hey, we need you to film a couple end credit scenes for me, and he did it. But I wasn't feeling the Captain America suit. Once again, it looks fucking trash. It looked like the first one and the Josh Whedon one. I didn't like that one. I liked the first Avengers one, and I liked the Age of Ultron one, and the Civil War Captain America uniform. So, but yeah, man, that's my take on on Spider-Man Homecoming. Amazing Spider-Man is in my mind because just the web swinging is so iconic. I compared it before I watched this video on YouTube and just like, wow, why couldn't Homecoming do that? But there was some shining moments. I believe that they're going to sell a lot of toys, a lot of merchandise off of this. There were a lot of kids in the movie theater when I went to watch it. But overall, though, nobody was clapping, laughing, and having a great time like I thought they were going to have, going off the early reviews from other YouTubers. I think this movie was vastly overrated and overhyped. But it was a good movie. Do I think it's better than Wonder Woman? I don't think it's even better than Wonder Woman. I don't think it's even better than some of the Phase 1 of Marvel movies, but it's up there. but it's not the best one. I think arguably Doctor Strange might even be a little better than the Spider-Man Homecoming in some ways. And that's just my opinion, guys. If you disagree, man, leave it down in the comments, man, and I'll respond back to you guys either in the comment section or in the video, man. And thank you guys for listening, man. And stay tuned in. We got a lot more content coming up. We're going to talk some more about The Watchmen, Game of Thrones, what's going on over Netflix, what's also going on with the DC Cinematic Universe, and what else do they got in store for us after the Justice League. All right, guys, man, you guys have a good day, and peace.